Hello, my photography friend. I trust I find you well. Welcome to this episode of Photographer Unscripted, where I talk about something photography that's close to my heart. You join me today in Jersey, where I'm on a field study trip. As many of you that know me will know that I'm a PhD candidate in photography, and I mentor under post graduates in photography. And I'd like to start the session today with a question for you to think about, and I'll give my views at the end of the video. What is photography? Is it a skill, possibly a craft, or is it an art? So I'd like you to have a think about that while we just talk about the narrative that I bring to the table today. But as a prelude, what does the word photography actually mean? Well, it's Greek. Photo meaning light, graphe meaning drawing or painting loosely. So photography is a literal translation of drawing with light. So with this in mind, I'd like to have a little conversation about the art of photography, or a particular genre of art. So I have 3 cameras here, and what's a camera? When I did my BA in photography, I actually did a whole module on what is a camera, and I built 8 cameras, all out of different products, from a shoebox, Lego, paper mache, a book. So what is a camera? A camera to me, and there is no right or wrong answer, is an instrument, a piece of gear, a tool, depending on your vocabulary, that captures light and allows it to be recorded on a light sensitive medium. So any form of light type container, so a shoebox, tin of beer, Lego glued together, etc. And then you have a light sensitive medium, so sensor, a piece of plastic film with chemicals on it, a piece of glass with chemical on it, or perhaps a piece of photographic paper. They're the main mediums. But, as art, we can explore. Do we want different mediums? Now, a lot of photographers collect, loosely, camera equipment. I know I've got Nikon, Hasselblad, Fuji, Arca Swiss cameras, but to me they're an instrument to tell a story, to be financially rewarded, to have satisfaction that I've actually produced something. So what do I do with all this equipment? Well, I'm going to take 2 of these cameras here. There's 2 of them here. There's one there, and there's another one there. They're both Z5s. And for my sins, I am commercially a Nikon photographer. I was Canon when I was 18, but they brought out a new lens mount, and I had to change everything. And since then, Canon seems to change their lens mount regular, which, as a photographer, is expensive. So, a friend of mine, Paul, who's no longer with us, a very good friend of mine, miss him deeply. So, hello, Paul. I do miss you. He was a Nikon photographer, had an F4. So I bought a Nikon camera, and I loved it. All the buttons and the menus, I could understand it, the tangible muscle memory and so on. So for that reason, I have been a Nikon photographer. The person creates the image, not the equipment. The equipment allows us to be judgmental, shallow depth of field, shutter speed. Some going to go to 4,000, some to get to 8,000 of seconds, so faster shutter speed, etc. So some equipment allows us to be judgmental in our image making. So I'm a Nikon Z5 user. Nikon Z user. I have the 9, the 8, 7.2, 6.2, 2.5s. I've got a 52, a 30, and a ZF. And there's a whole new series of my experiences of Nikon ZF and how I've pimped up my camera, how I use my camera, what my camera's for. I'm going to talk about mental health, but let's get back to this subject. So why have I got 2 ZFs? Bear in mind the question that I started with. Is photography a skill, a craft, or an art? The world is photographed. And it's now, for a saying, the worm has turned. We've all got cameras, we're all taking photographs, we've all seen that picture before. How do we make our images differently? How do we put our personality, our artistic inflection upon what we're seeing, the narrative, what's going through our mind, what do we feel in our heart, which is all about my PhD. So we're here in Jersey, and the battlefield, the scars of Adolf Hitler are here and have been preserved, but they have been photographed so many times with, that's a Z7 that I've got with me to do those. I was going to bring my 8, but run out of space and weight. My bag was blooming heavy, so the 7's good enough for what I'm doing, because it's a field study trip. It's not me coming to do my own research, but it's a prelude to that. I bought with me my infrared Z5 and a new toy, a full spectrum Z5. I bought a second-hand one. It only had 19 shutter counts. Cost me £500. I got an academic grant for that, so thank you, powers to be, for the grant. And I had it. They converted it as well for me for another 300. So I got a grant of 900, and they allowed me to get a full spectrum. So when I go to these spaces and places, I can capture in 720 nanometers and full spectrum, as long as normal color vision that we see. And while we're talking about that, there's a great episode on Netflix. There's a whole series, 2 series, about art, and it's called Abstracts. And if you have not seen it, it goes on about design of cars, theatres, fonts, design of clothing, architecture. There's about 20 episodes. Platon, I think it's episode 9 in season 1, the Greek photographer who's photographed all the leaders of the world. Absolutely fascinating. But in series 2, episode 1, it's the art of design, and it's about colour. Fascinating. There is no colour until you shine light upon that colour, and depending on that colour of light will reflect on what colours we see. Very, very interesting. So I highly recommend, if you haven't got Netflix, sign up to when they have their 7-day deals or 30-day deals for a month or whatever and so on. Well worth watching. I watch that series, or at least several episodes, as my practice unfolds. I keep going back and watching, that might be relevant to this, or let's refresh my memory on this, or colour, or whatever and so on. It's an absolutely fascinating subject. So, sorry, sidestep. Why have I got these 2 Z5s with me? Well, one is the one with a little dent here on the shutter wheels, little dent. That's my original Z camera, and it was a part of my long-term roadmap. If I was going to move to Z, I didn't buy the original 6 or 7, because by the time you buy a 24-70-2.8, that was £6,000, and I was happy with my Z3s, my Z5s. So I had 2 of each of those. My 2 D850s, I had 2 of those. I had one D500. I was happy with that. So why move? And I had 30 years worth of f-mount lenses. Why move? I was happy. I was getting the images that I wanted and so on. But they brought out the Z5 as a kit, and I think it's something like a 24 to 50 variable aperture lens, and it was like £1,300, $1,000 or so, something like that. And I thought, well, I could buy that, and if I don't like it, I can sell it and lose a couple £100, and away I go. But I fell in love in minutes, and then the roadmap was how do I sell everything to move to Z over time. So this Z, with the one with the little dent in the wheel, was my first Z camera. Before you are, these are from a Canadian company. The stickers, these ones are customised. About £6 for a camera. I've got some more coming for different lenses, and actually they now do a stealth kit that you can cover up your brand, which I like to do. Cover up the brands of my cameras. They're Field Made Company, I think they're called. They're based in Canada. I usually place an order for around about £30 at a pop. Series, a set of lenses, prime lenses or whatever, or cameras. I'll do a whole camera or something. So that's it, each camera, and I do them, one a month or so as I go through them. And it's a recently purchase, that is. But why did I convert my camera to infrared? Well, the world has being photographed. We lived in a photograph world with our phones. So it's about capturing something differently, putting our own emotion, our art, our personality within the image. As John Koskowski, his mirrors and windows philosophy, when you look through your viewfinder, you're looking through a window, but you're making decisions. You're choosing your shutter speed, you're choosing your field of view, you're choosing the height, the angle, the depth of field, what you're focusing on, what to include, what not to include. They're all decisions of you. And when you look back at the photograph, either on the screen, through the viewfinder, on your computer, or as a print, or something mounted on the wall, those decisions are reflected back into the image. So it's a part of your personality that you're communicating those decisions that you've made. So when we take those photographs, even if it's just phone click, we're still, what are we including, not we including? And using a different medium, different lenses, infrared, full spectrum, allows us to capture and communicate different emotions. And this is where my PhD comes in, the emotion of photography. And when you look at something, how does it make you feel? Well, an infrared image, 720, 850, I think it is, which is the black and white spectrum side of it, those really dark blacks and pumped up whites, make us feel differently than a color image. But then we go to a full spectrum, and we have the ultraviolet, the spectrum of color, and the frequency of infrared, and makes us really artistic and show images that we haven't seen before, because it's a smaller, narrower field of image making, image creating. So, and I wanted to do some research in presenting images in a different way of a narrative that people may drive past, walk past, visit every single day. So that's why, a normal color vision camera, an infrared, and a full spectrum. So I would like to go back to the question: is photography a skill, a craft, or an art? And I would like to give you my view. And there is no right or wrong answer. Same with lots of things I like. It's a general consensus. It's evidence that's been submitted, and society has accepted it, morals and ethics. The scientific community has accepted that and said, yes, that all makes sense, that's logical, but there is no right or wrong. I've got a distinction for a paper I wrote in photography. There's no such thing as a lie. Very eye-opening that piece was. That was one of the comments that I wrote, and I got a distinction because I've really thought-provoked that no such thing as a lie. So what is art? What is photography? Art, craft, skill. So my answer is, you need the skills to be a photographer. You need the skills to drive. What does this button do? What does this dial do? How to attach the lens. And that's the skill of photography. I consider the craft of photography is taking the image, asking the question, what am I looking at? What do I see? How does it make me feel? How do I communicate that? And that then blends into the art of photography, because the art, I consider, is your individuality, your soul, your passion, your knowledge, your personality, your palette. And that is communicated into the image. So all three are entangled. You have the skill, knowing what shutter speed to take an image. So if you're panning through, you might do 15th, 30th, 60th second to get that motion blur as you pan through a car driving past, and you've got subject detection, so it's locked on there, but you've got the movement as you go through, panning through. Or perhaps you're using 15th of a second on a tripod to capture the clouds going through or the waves coming in. Those are the skills. The craft is actually physically taking it, asking those questions. Do I tilt the camera down? Do I tilt the camera up? Do I take it landscape, portrait? And so that's the craft, and they are both blended together, entangled together. And then you get the art. Well, this is very cold, and art can go into post-processing as well. Okay, how am I going to photograph that? Am I going to include this? What's this? So they're all three entangled as a global question and answer. So my answer is, it's all three. I'd love to know what you think. Is photography a skill, a craft, or an art? Hi, I'm Mark. I'm an audio-visual practitioner, academic supervisor, Lightroom and Photoshop educator, and PhD candidate in photography. And if you'd like to hear more of my tones, please like, subscribe, and if you've got a question, leave it in the comments. There'll be some links to the products that I've shown here. I'll put a link to the stickers in the comments, or it'll go off to my profile page and you'll see all the links, etc. and so on. I'll put links to my practice so you can find out a little bit more about me. But like, subscribe, ask a question in the comments. I'd love to know what you think photography is, art, craft, or a skill. Or perhaps you have a totally different view. Stay safe. Happy photography.